Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks at Engani Titan. We're here on Thiepval Ridge on the AMX CDC. Home ground, I suppose, so to speak, even though it's a First World War battlefield rather than a World War II battlefield, and I don't think the CDC's post-war. I don't think it actually saw any action in World War II. I really like the CDC, even though I don't do well in it a lot of the time, because it is a bit of a glass cannon and it's a difficult tank to do well and consistently, at least for the likes of me. It's got a really sweet gun and a very accurate gun and a very fast firing gun with very good penetration, and it has pretty decent view range, and it's very mobile, but it's got paper tissue for armor. And we see the first enemy, a suicide scout, hoves to over the horizon and charges forward into the enemy lines, blandly and blindly unaware of the cost or the consequences to his team or to himself or to anybody else. And Thiepval Ridge is not a bad map for scouts. And especially since he's on the defending team, he would have done much better if he turned around and went back and just hung out in bushes in the centre and was totally invisible to the team and just spotting everybody and trying to cross the open ground towards the middle of the map instead of doing that. This is one of those games where in hindsight I wished Wargaming had a persistent replay system, although I'd probably have had to download the replay system. One of the things I've noticed is a kind of a pattern, but when you assault maps, you tend to get two kinds of teams. You get ultra-passive teams who think they can defend from within the cap circle or very close by, and aggressive teams who think they have to attack and wipe out the enemy team, preferably in their spawn areas. It seems to be the World of Tanks players, a lot of them have only one gear, that's forward. They can only go forward, they can't go back, they can't return, they can't defend, and they certainly can't reposition. They must meet the enemy, defeat them, and then move on to the next enemy and just keep going forward. It's a bit like that old parody song from the 70s about Star Trek, where they were forever going forward because they could not find reverse. So here we have a defender trying to push and attack against superior numbers, where you're better off just hunkering down in cover using that wonderful turret and generally waiting for people to come out to him. Stay out of cover as much as possible. There's a Centurion in the middle trying to do the same thing. And up in the northwestern side of the map there's a heavy tank inside the river who has again pushed well beyond any kind of support. He's got tanks all around him. So it's making the defense of the base difficult, should we say, because so many tanks have just expended themselves to no good effect. We have an IS-3 here now trying to push as well, but at least he has the sense to pull back. There's the Centurion in the middle. Again, there's no need for these guys to be pushing forward. They need to expose. As soon as they're spotted, they should be pulling back. Now, okay, the defender doesn't have good spots to pull back to, and there's reasonable reason to stay where he is. But the Centurion really shouldn't have stayed up there at all. Once he was spotted, he was too far forward, and he's not in a position. He's been spotted from target places where any possible support can't shoot at the things that can shoot at him. So he's not actually doing his team a lot of benefit by being spotted up there. Now, if he was able to sit there and spot tanks without being spotted, or at least without exposing himself to fire, then that might have been a useful location. Now the defender is becoming increasingly isolated because the position to the north of him is more or less collapsed. There's no cover, and there's probably no friendly tanks to the north of him either. And our light tanks are pushing forward, and they're starting to expose the tank destroyers that have been supporting the defender behind them. The enemy defense is now really starting to crumble. We've pushed the river line along the western side. That guy that isolated himself in the river is still hanging in there, but I think there's pretty steep sides there. The Stuart Emile is being spotted by the light tanks that are pushing forward, so he's not going to last long. Now the defender has little or no support behind him. There is that other tank destroyer, but that's just one tank, so I think we're in a position now to rush the defender if he's still alive by the time I get to him, because there are tanks closing in from multiple sides, and there's possibly tanks in the middle. Artillery is joining the fray as well, so the defender is gone. There's an IS-3 on the other side of that ridge line, and the tank destroyer is here on his own behind the house, so I'm going to go after him because I've got support. The other tank, the light tank, got a bit of a track damage there, but he repaired, and we can both come around, and that's the end of the tank destroyer. So there's just the motherland now. He's completely isolated as well, with 3 or 4 tanks closing in on him, and there's a heavy tank behind us as well, but he's probably not going to get anywhere near this fight in time. We've cleared the river line, so the motherland is isolated from whatever remaining tanks on the enemy side, and they're outnumbered massively, so it's all over now at this stage. It's just mopping up and seeing how much damage the enemy can inflict at the very end. Because what happens at this stage is you do get the enemy pulling back tanks, because people are pretty wounded, and also people are rushing in to try and capitalize to gain as much damage as they can, so they're getting a bit reckless. So we've come around here. The remaining 3 enemy tanks are at this side, and there's one of them, and missed. He's done some damage, and yes, we're starting to lose a few tanks now, and there's just 2 enemy tanks remaining, and the artillery's been identified, and the IS-3 is still alive, so he did pull back that time, and then managed to keep himself going to the very end of the game. Now I've missed the M44 on the fly, and I probably won't get a second chance, because there's just too many other tanks around. So that's it, game over. Reason enough, being I got 11 damaging ribbons and 9 assistance ribbons, and a tracking damage. A ton of money. That's the other nice thing about this tank, it makes money. We got a first class mastery, Confederate. We did 2,500 damage, 1,700 assisted damage. So that is pretty good, both for assisted and regular. We came number 2 by experience. Our Yazzie was 4,600. That's a good bit of damage. That defender got only 1 shot off, and that IS-3 only managed around 1,000 points of damage, which is not great for an IS-3. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like. If you haven't already done so, please consider giving the channel a subscription. I thank you for watching, and I will catch you all again soon. Goodbye.